Good evening, everyone. How's everybody doing? Good. Everyone's got a little pre-Thanksgiving meal, maybe a little brandy old-fashioned, or whatever kind of old-fashioned you like, right? My name is Paul Zarling. I'm the managing partner at Client First, and I'd like to welcome you to our evening financial education event. And we feel very grateful for the work that Brian and his team does for the food and the desserts, and Jim for the drinks. So how about a round of applause for those guys? It's something we don't have to worry about at all. They say, hey, what about this? We're like, sounds good. And they just make it happen. So we appreciate that. And the last thing I'll do before I introduce the speakers is, we like to open these up with some trivia, right? And so the theme, as you can see, is fishing for greenbacks. And when I first read that, I was like, is that a dollar reference? Is that like a bass fish reference right at the greenback? And they said, yeah. I'm like, okay, run with it. So the trivia we have for today is, what is, and when, this is a rod and reel question, the largest fish caught in Wisconsin? Go ahead.
Right now, muskies.
Right now, muskies. Okay, he's got muskies in 2023. Sturgeons, what year? No year guess, okay. We had lake trout over the noon hour. That was also a good guess. Any other guesses before I let you know what you have for your next cocktail hour? All right. So sturgeon, 1979, 170.5 ounces. Or, sorry, pounds. Ounces? That's not a good fish at all. What is this, a kitty cocktails? No. 170.5 pounds. And it took, I was reading about this, it took about a little over an hour to reel that thing in. The cool part was the fisherman, I forgot the name, he released it back. Right? They estimated to be about a 100-year-old fish. So I thought that was pretty cool. So 170.5 pounds, not ounces or kilograms, whatever they do in Europe. And that was 1979. Question. Where did he catch it? I believe it was like Big Yellow Lake or Yellow Lake. Yeah. There it is. Oh, you're looking it up too? Perfect. Perfect. All right. So we've got your trivia. We've got it verified. So you're all good. So your next Thanksgiving dinner, you can pull that one out. You need some conversation starters. All right. Now I'm going to introduce the speakers. And I really like this team because there's probably over, if I think about it, 50 to 60 years of experience around financial planning, tax, process, etc. So we're going to go to your, I guess, left to further left. We're gonna go with Justin. Right, he's one of the partners, financial planning, chemistry background. He's been doing this for what, over 20 years? 30 years? No, 25. How long have you been financial planning? It's been a while. 2008. All right, so you guys can do the math on that. So then we have Brad, and I'm not gonna steal his thunder. He's got a new designation. I'll let him talk about that. MSOE grad, engineering background. He's been with us for a couple years. He's got an exciting announcement. We've got Cade, a University of Missouri grad, right, top school for financial planning. We're excited he's on our team. He's got some cool announcements. Morgan is got her master's in accounting. She's on her way to CPA, so we're excited about that. Does a lot of work for us in tax and accounting. We have Benjamin Truck, who had just joined us, but has a great background with business and process and people and tech, right? And he's been leading some of our other tax and accounting areas along with some of our other process areas. So a lot of good expertise here. I'm excited about them to share with you. They're going to share with you some updates, what we call lures to keep aware of for this next season, and then also a lot on what's going on with the 2017 tax. Is that going to expire? Is it going to keep going? What's happening there? Justin will cover that. So I'm going to turn over to the team. I'll see you guys here to wrap it up. You guys enjoy your food or drink. Make sure you take notes. If you have any questions, just raise your hand. Make sense? All right, I'm going to turn over to the team and hand over the mics. Here you go.
Thanks, Paul. So, grab the clicker over there. So, as you know, at Client First, one of our core values is we are a family of families. So, we always like to kick off our Lunch and Learn events, which is an update on who's presenting in our family and what's going on. So, my family will be arriving a little bit later. They're kind of running around yet, but they'll be here later. So, since our last time our team presented, so we had some football going on. I got a 5th grader and a 7th grader. So they had really fun playing football for Junior Chargers for Kettle Moraine Lutheran's junior program. And then our daughters, our daughter Michaela and our exchange student April. So they're having fun at a Brewer game. And then April also participated in cross country at Kettle Moraine Lutheran High School. And then my daughter Michaela participated in the Children's Theater production of Charlotte's Web. And then, of course, in the middle, if you know my wife, my kids, one of the favorite holidays and fun times is Halloween. So our boys dressed up as Mario, of course, Mike Myers, and a guy in a guinea suit. So that's what's going on with my family recently.
All right, so top left is the table at my house. So that's a lot of papers and paperwork and books. So I was studying for the last 2 months for the Certified Financial Planner test, which I passed 2 weeks ago on Wednesday. So started classes probably about 18, 20 months ago. So
It wasn't just a 2-month thing. It was,
yeah, 2 months of really like buckling down and reserving a spot at the table, which, you know, is, I think my wife's happy that it's back. But then lower left, our son Logan in the Ohio State hat, he came up and we went to our son's playoff game for Kettle Moraine Lutheran High School. That's Colin, number 3. Ended up losing the game, but it was a good game to watch. Then later that day, or the next day, we went up to UW Stout. That's our son Ethan, who's on the insurance team, over on the right, playing rugby. So all 5 of us were there, and as I say, Lisa's heart was full because all the boys were in one spot up in Menominee. And then on the right, fall golf. I don't think you can beat it here in Wisconsin.
All right, so I'm not a big picture taker, so I had to go deep in the camera roll to find some. The first one, you guys get to see my dog Connor. He likes to sit up by front seat right by me, and I need to be careful because he does like to hit the all the buttons and mess with my console, so have to watch him for that. We do have another dog, Murphy. He is not pictured, and before I tell the story, no, he's not dead. So the story with Murphy is he has seizures, and we put him on medication, and just about a few weeks ago, he had 2 seizures in the same night, and my parents were freaking out, you know, what's going on? Come to find out, he got into a whole pan of chocolate brownies. So, you know, that's kind of what we think happened. You know, you kind of feel bad for him, but then again, don't get into the sweets. Middle picture is me and all my friends at the Living Word auction. That was a good night. I got to see a lot of my old teachers as well as a lot of old friends, and it was just a good night of raising money behind a purpose. And then the last picture on the right is my girlfriend and I at the Creekside Valley Pumpkin Patch, and I was fulfilling my boyfriend duties and allowing us to do what she wanted to do. So it was a good day. I had fun. We had nice weather, so it went well.
So up in the corner are my kids for trick-or-treating. So my oldest was the stormtrooper. I knew that, I promise. My 2 daughters were princesses, so Olivia will be a year next week on Thanksgiving. I had her the day before Thanksgiving last year. And then my youngest son, Harrison, is a Ninja Turtle. He is completely obsessed with the Ninja Turtles. We have 4 Ninja Turtle shirts, and we have to do laundry every 4 days so he can continue to wear a Ninja Turtle shirt. Down in the corner, I am covered in color run, so I am the president for the Mayville PTA, and we do a color run, our fun run every year, and this was the first year we did a color run. We raised $17,000 for our schools, and we will buy new playground equipment for the Mayville School District with that. Next, we went to the pumpkin farm, just an annual thing for me and my kids and my family to do. In the center, that's my brother and my son, and then my husband's taking the picture. We're big WWE fans, so my son got to go in the VIP section for Friday Night SmackDown when they were in Milwaukee a couple weeks ago. Mom has not ever gone, but, you know, my 8-year-old got to go. And then just other pictures, just of fun Saturday nights where they're all in Halloween jammies.
Morgan's got 4 kids at home, so she doesn't have to go to SmackDown. They bring the SmackDown to her. My fall highlight pictures don't necessarily have a lot of activities. We did have a number of good activities, but only so much room for photos. There was some hiking, some fishing, a lot of soccer going on. I don't have any of those photos to share with you tonight. Some of the ones that I do have up here, I think we took over at the Richfield Historical Society. Levi, Olive, and Ivy on the left. My wife Krista. All of them are in the back here tonight. They probably didn't know I was going to call on them or point them out. And then the center is our photo that we put together for a Thanksgiving card. So those are the chalked fall highlights. Thank you. All right, so our agenda tonight, we have important 2024 updates regarding Social Security, Medicare, and retirement contributions. We've got our 2023 tax season, which is coming up, and the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017, and a special important Adaptiv Investment Management update. So diving right in, looks like we found a $10 bill in the lake here, so that's good. We're finding money. So how many of you are on Social Security? Okay, so there should be a raise coming starting December 29th, 3.2%. So not as high as previous years, but still, better than zero. So that's good. Just some examples there. So a $2,000 a month payment would go to $2,064. A $3,000 a month payment would go to $3,096 per month. So just giving you some advance notice of that. I'm sure a lot of you have seen it and heard about it. The earnings limit for workers claiming Social Security is now $22,320. So if you guys were here at Jeopardy, I got it wrong, I lost. So now I'm really going to get this one right because I put it in a slide. So, okay. Still burning from the loss. So we've got the earnings above that amount is $1 subtracted for every $2 earned over that amount. And then the earnings limit for people reaching their full retirement age in 2024 will increase to $59,520. So, and then there's no limit on earnings for workers who are at full retirement age. And for anyone that's my age, that's I think it's 67. And then there was earlier years before to give you that age. So I do have an example to talk through that $22,320. So we've got Bill here. He's 64. He's going to retire March 30th, 2024. He's earned $9,000 for the year. He's going to turn on his Social Security, so he's before his full retirement age, because in this age he'd definitely have to be until 67. And he's also going to get a part-time job in April, paying $22 an hour, working 20 hours per week. Will his Social Security benefits be reduced? What do you guys think? Okay. All right. So he's going to make his $9,000. He's going to have the $17,160. So he'd be making total for the year $26,160, which would then be $3,840 over the limit. So according to my calculation, it would have been $1,920. Now, Justin, I think you said maybe there's a chance that wasn't calculated right. So I think the actual answer is more that he still could have been, the $17,160 is all that would have counted. But these are kind of questions that people come to us and ask, because they are retiring, they want to turn on Social Security, and they still want to get a part-time job. So definitely come to us in any of those situations. When he reaches his full retirement age, if you think about it, he's making money still, so he's still paying into the Social Security program. At the time that he reaches full retirement age, his benefits would be recalculated. So it's like you would have it reduced and then recalculated. Now we've got Medicare premiums. So if you remember, going into this year, you ended up with a reduction, and it was 164.90 for those of you on Medicare. Now this year, it's going to 174.70. So an increase there. The table down here is just some of those things to watch out for when you're with Medicare. You want to be careful if you do have like a significant financial event that's going to create taxation. There's certain limits where the whole year you have to pay an increased premium. So if you exceed $206,000 married filing jointly, you would then have an increased premium of $69.90 extra per month for that whole year. Now that looks back 2 years, so next year's premium is based on last year's taxes. All right. And the Medicare Part A deductibles are going up a little bit as well. So inpatient hospital deductible $1,600, now going to $1,632, and the rest of the table there.
All right. So for our next point, we want to look at some exciting news for the next year. Retirement plan contributions are getting a new increase. So for 401ks, 403bs, 457 plans, and thrift savings plans, they're getting a contribution increase to $23,000, and that's up from the $22,500 for 2023. And this also, the total employer plus employee contribution to the defined plans is an increase to $26,000, also up from $66,000. So this employer plus employee contribution includes your contribution plus any match or other compensation, as well as the catch-up contribution does stay at $7,500. So now we can look at some IRA contribution limits. So the IRA contribution limit is being increased to $7,000, up from $6,500 for 2023. And so this is exciting because guess what, guys? We can save even more. Exciting and fun news. So catch-up contributions do also remain at that $1,000. So the table at the bottom is the IRA phase-out range, and this basically summarizes filing single. We can see the phase-out range $77,000 to $87,000, up from that range in 2023. And the phase-out range basically means that you can make up to that amount before the IRA contribution limit starts to phase out until $87,000, where you cannot make contributions. And then moving on to similar Roth IRA contribution limits, also increased to $7,000, up from $6,500. And then that catch-up contribution does limit at $1,000, and that remains. So then on the bottom as well, we can see Roth IRA income limits, the single filing being $146 to $161, and then the numbers as well for 2023 where they're increasing.
But we're in the fall season. We had some fall highlights. So there's spring, summer, fall, winter. And the fall highlights, if I could get a raise of hands, show of hands, whose favorite season is fall? All right, I'm seeing a number of different hands. So that fall season competes with fishing season, with hunting season. But for right now, I get to talk with you about tax season. We're talking about like Halloween. There's a horror story for some of you, right? So if I could get another raise of hands, how many of you have used Client First? You've done our taxes with us before, or we've done your taxes, depending on your perspective. Great, thanks. So a number of you. That helps me understand that what you're going to see here, a lot of you are familiar with already. I'll be pointing out some particular things to look for. However, the main part of the process you'll be familiar with will be the same. So here's an overview of the tax season process. And a number of you will be nothing new here, but these highlights, these main milestones, are going to be applicable for nearly everyone in here. So the first one will be gathering your tax documents. So those are going to be the things that have that you've had throughout the year, and then typically that'll be starting to get mailed to you right at the beginning of February, right at the end of January next year. So that you'll gather all of those documents. Fill out and sign your 2023 organizer packet. So the organizer packet is what we'll mail to you. that it's kind of a worksheet workbook style that lists your accounts and your different things that you've entered and provided to us in the past, right? So we'll list for you if you've done your taxes with us in the past. We'll already have some of that information and they'll be listed for you. You're going to complete that, drop it off at the office, and at the same time you can schedule your delivery appointment. And the delivery appointment again is where basically all your tax work is complete, it's reviewed, you sign off on it. That's at the delivery appointment where you'll see that paperwork. Then when you complete that, we e-file, so that's actually submitting the filing for you. And then the confirmation for the e-file is basically going to, just like any other email confirmation, you're going to have a number confirming that it was actually filed for you. And at that point, usually taxes done equals happy client. So hope that you'll enjoy this process. We're always looking to be able to find ways to improve it, make it more efficient. A good experience for you, and then some efficiencies. For example, as part of what they brought me on to join the Client First team was to help bring efficiencies behind the scenes as well. So here's an overview of the process. So for the client, for your tax client organizer, here's some items in the overview that I want to mention and highlight for the packet. So the income sources, the deductible expenses, the deductible contributions, required questions, so those happen every year. As far as specific information that we need you to answer, the personal or dependent information, and then this next one is check the box or line out the item in order to be able to fully complete the organizer. So what that means is, and I see some heads nodding that you're familiar with this, so when the organizer comes to you that has your list of accounts, for example, you're going to check it when you've completed it and you've written the corresponding number, for example. To line out the item, go ahead and strike through with a single line when, for example, the account is closed or maybe you're not with that employer anymore. That's going to allow us to update it so that it won't even show up on your next year organizer. Just helps it keep a little more clean, a little more streamlined. Regarding the personal and dependent information, if your household had a death or divorce, there's a spot to be able to indicate that. Any dependents, and whether or not your dependents need to file can sometimes be an area with some questions. So some of the questions would be, did they earn income above the standard deduction level? Do they have federal or state withholdings? Or currently enrolled in school? And what school could mean, you want to make sure to look at your specific situation. Some examples here include private school tuition, daycare expenses, and higher education, for example, meaning college. So here's some commonly missed items in the organizer. So highlight these so that when you do drop it off and you schedule that it's complete in order to be able to keep the process moving forward for you. Charitable contributions. So in the organizer, you'll list only the total amount needed. However, your receipts and your records, you'll still want to hang on to those. And the same goes for your qualified charitable distributions. I highlighted here again because of the importance for the annual required questions. Please answer all of those required questions so that we can keep it moving forward for you. And then another one that's missed or a highlight, if you did a number of energy efficiency programs, there are a number of examples listed on here, but by no means is this the full list. Out on the IRS website, they'll list as far as what is qualified and how they're qualified. So weather stripping, windows, doors are some examples of qualified energy efficiency improvements. I'll hand it over to Morgan.
All right, so getting ready for year end for your taxes on what you can do to kind of help your tax situation is your 401k contributions, both traditional and Roth IRA contributions. They have to be done in the year that you want it to be on your tax return. So if you want it to be reflected on your 2023 tax return, you have to do it within the calendar year of 2023. That also qualifies for if you have a traditional or beneficiary IRA and you're making qualified charitable donations. If you're donating cash or assets to charities, that has to be done within the calendar year. If you're selling assets in a taxable account and you want to pay estimated taxes, that needs to be done within that calendar year as well. And then any estimated taxes for your self-employment should be paid within the calendar year. However, you do get till January 15th to make all of those. Otherwise, you just pay at tax time. So again, with looking in the calendar year for 2023, what you have done to create a tax credit, that could be the energy credits that Benjamin talked about. So those have to be done and paid for within 2023 to claim them on your 2023 taxes. Tuition credits for higher education. So the higher education, you have to be in school and pay that tuition in that calendar year to be able to claim that credit. And same thing with your dependent care credits for if you have your child in daycare or anything like that. So when you're ready to go through your fishing tackle box for tax, you'll gather all your tax documents that are mailed to you in January. So you'll keep all those. If you're a new tax client, we do an in-person intake for you to kind of go through everything to make sure we're not missing anything in that respect. If you're a returning tax client, you guys are familiar, you get mailed the organizer. So you'll fill out the organizer and then all those tax statements that you were mailed, you'll turn in with your organizer. We don't need, like Benjamin mentioned, we don't need all the letters for what you donated to like your church or other charities. We just need that total. Only official tax documents is what we need. And those totals can be listed in your organizer then for the other items. So then in the spring, before tax filing deadline, there are still a few things that you can do to be reflected on your 2023 taxes, even though they weren't done within that calendar year. And that would include your traditional IRA, sub-IRA contributions for the prior tax year, Roth IRA contributions, HSA contributions, and 529 plans. Those can all be done up into the filing deadline of April 15th. To get credit for on your 2023 taxes.
Good question. Has the state put out new guidance for 24 in terms of the maximum contribution for state tax deduction for 529?
For 2024,
Yeah.
I do not know. I can check.
Yeah. I didn't see it, but a little
I
early.
haven't seen anything on that.
Is there anywhere I could find a list of these qualified energy efficiency improvements to find out what qualifies?
Yep. All that would be on the IRS website. So if you Google it or
Like go on irs.gov and like
yes, there should be
for
an energy section. Yep.
Did everyone maybe repeat that? Repeat the question.
So the question is where can you find all the energy credit, what qualifies, what doesn't qualify? All of that can be located on the IRS's website on what qualifies for energy credits. The windows doors, they have to meet certain standards to be able to qualify for that. And the people or person or company that's installing that should be able to help you answer those questions as well.
All right, thank you. So to follow up on that, because we had some questions at noon, any improvements that you've done to your house, like windows, doors, insulation, siding, just write notes on the tax organizer because a lot of those things qualify, but it's hard for us to create a comprehensive list of like exact products. Mm-hmm. The other thing is that you're a little bit on the honor system on a lot of those because there's a reference to the IRS, but they're not verifying. So we can just write notes if you have things like that. So the more detail on the tax organizer, the better. So just following up. So as many extra notes on there as possible is good. I'm not saying anyone in here has done this, but please do not drop off a tax organizer that has zero markings or zero. There's, a couple people each year that try to drop off their tax documents and a blank organizer. And you may be asked to sit down and take some time to fill it out. So our tax team works very hard to prepare taxes accurately and in our client's best interest. So you wouldn't want to drop off something showing you didn't do any prep work, and we don't want you to be on the naughty list for next year. So, all right, Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017. So if you've been to a lunch and learn this year, you've probably heard about this because it's just my favorite, thing I like to talk about. but it is important. Hopefully, everybody knows that it has an expiration date. So it was signed into law December 22nd, 2017. Highlights of it: reduced tax brackets, enhanced family benefits, including child tax credit, increased standard deduction, reduced capital gains taxes and alternative minimum tax, increased estate tax exemptions, went into effect in 2018, and if Congress does nothing, it expires December 31st, 2025. So if Congress does nothing, it just expires. So here's the highlights of the most impactful parts of it. So individual tax brackets. So it's most beneficial to lower income and middle class Americans. So under the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, there's a 12% tax bracket that would revert back to the 15% bracket, which is a 20% increase, and the 22 would go back to the 25, and then there's other brackets further up, but the 12 to the 15 is the largest. And to give you an idea, married filing joint with standard deduction, the 12/15% bracket goes up to about $100,000 of adjusted gross income for married couples. Then, of course, there's the standard deduction. So, standard deduction, the standard deduction currently is $24,000. Well, actually, it isn't $24,000. That's what it was when it was passed. It's gone up a little bit for inflation, so much larger. But at the time of passing, the joint standard deduction was $13,000, and after it was $24,000. Currently, this year, to give you an idea of comparison, if you're married filing joint, both spouses are 65 or older, it's $30,700 standard deduction. And then on the itemized section, so currently there's a $10,000 cap on state and local taxes, including property taxes, Wisconsin taxes. That would go back to uncapped. 2% miscellaneous itemized deductions would come back. So you go back to how itemized deduction used to be. So personal exemptions, who remembers personal exemptions? So back in the day, they were a little over 4,000. So those would come back on top of the standard deduction or itemized deduction. So those would come back into effect as well. Capital gains tax rates. So currently, most people are falling into either the zero. So if you're in the 12% federal bracket, your long-term capital gains rates are zero, and then you would go up to the 15% tax bracket. Prior to Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, you still had the zero, and then you went to 15, but then there was a 20%. So those would go back to the higher percentages, as well as alternative minimum tax. So the exemptions for that currently are significantly higher than they were under the prior tax law. So we haven't seen, most of our clients are not affected by alternative minimum tax currently. Once it reverts back, many more people will be impacted there. Estate tax, currently the federal estate tax exemptions are about double what they were prior. So those would revert back. And that's a little bit of an overview of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. So again, if Congress does nothing, the end of 2025, it expires, it goes back 2026 and future tax years. So they may make a change. We don't know what they're going to do, but there is going to be a change of one shape or form. So we're in a relatively low tax environment right now. Going forward, 2026, not just the tax brackets, but the way your taxes are calculated is going to change. So if you've been in the habit or mindset of, well, I'm standard deduction, there's a possibility that could change in 2026. So that's why we tell people in the tax organizer, it might seem tedious, but like keep tracking your medical expenses, keep tracking mortgage interest, keep tracking charitable contributions, stay in the habit of tracking all these things so that you have documented them well. So when the tax laws change, it's easy to figure out, where you're going to be standard or itemized and what we can do to help you. All right. Any questions on that, or for that matter, any prior tax information? before I go on and give a brief investment management update.
Can
Yeah.
you consider a charitable deduction if you give to a private school?
So the question was, is it a charitable deduction on your taxes if you give to a private school? Yes, as long as it's a 501c3. It's not deductible if it's for someone's tuition, though. But if it's just a charitable contribution to a school, a church, or a charity, it is deductible. All right, I'm gonna give a investment management update. So for clients who are currently utilizing our investment management services, Dave and Ian and Kevin and Dan, they've been working very hard recently. They sent out several communications via email and then also mentioned this on the podcast. So we've had some significant market developments recently. And again, if you've been to some of their presentations, some of these numbers you should know and have memorized, just like the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. So some of the major indicators is the S&P 500 above the 200-day moving average. So that's kind of step one. Step two is, are we above 4180? And then three is if we can sustain trading above 4180. So this is a chart that Dave provided for us. So October 18th, all of these things were positive. So we were above all of those indicators. We were above the box there. Then here's a visual chart of kind of what's happened over the last month. So October 18th, all of those were positive. And then the last week of October, as some of you may know, the market took a pretty quick decline. So all of those went to a negative or an off mode. So for our client accounts, it raised a very high risk level. So we reduced exposure significantly to stocks, put clients' funds in cash, treasury bills, and things like that, because there was a high risk that there could be a significant market drop or a significant change in trend. Then the very next week, the market kind of snapped back and everything switched back to positive. So we had October 18th, that covered that. And then October 27th, so last week of October. October is historically a very volatile month when you look back, going all the way back to the 1950s. So if you look at it from a physics perspective, it's like stretching a rubber band when the market makes significant, short, quick moves. So what's going to happen, either the rubber band's going to break or it's going to bounce back. So in this case, the rubber band bounced back the following week and popped back above all those levels. So we didn't put the pedal to the metal, but we significantly increased and got back in the market for all of our clients. And I just gave you 3 indicators on the market. Our investment management team looks at hundreds of indicators. There's a majority of positive indicators out there. And again, these are not political indicators or fundamental indicators or economic indicators. These are simply supply and demand on prices in the stock market and the S&P 500 and other markets. So everything from a near-term perspective looks very positive. So that is the way we are positioned for clients currently. Of course, that can change. Of course, we'll have another update from the team in January as they present there, but I just wanted to, in case you're a client and you haven't had time to read the emails or listen to the podcast, just wanted to give an update for what's going on with your accounts. And with that, I'll bring Paul up to wrap it up. We're at record time again, Paul. And I even covered all the sections, or Morgan did. Is there any other questions before Paul wraps it up? We will be around for questions afterwards if you want to come to us individually.
Yeah, I got a question.
Yes.
Kind of a multifaceted question here, but how are we being proactive in the market right now? And in response to BRICS bringing steam ahead, where do we see opportunities in that? And if they end up creating a new currency, do we see an inflationary market coming? How are we responding to that? Proactive.
That's a lot. That's a lot. So, So,
First
Pro-
question.
proactive.
Proactive.
yep. Second one,
BRICS.
so
Britain.
Brazil, Russia, India, China.
Yes.
And then what was the last one? It's 3 for it, right?
Yeah. And then do we see inflation coming because of that if they create a new currency?
Inflation. So proactive one. Our strategy is based on the current trend. So we don't project and predict what the market's going to do over the next month, 3 months, 1 year, 5 year, 10 years. It's based on 30 years of research of this is how the market acts in certain environments.
Yep.
So it would be similar to if you were, traveling. So you can be proactive. You want to be in the market when it's in a good environment. So if you have the cruise control on 80 and it's starting to snow, you're going to let off the cruise control. So that's being proactive. In the market, you can't look out. We don't have like a 10-day forecast. That would be equivalent to like a 10-year forecast in the market. So we're shorter time frame of being proactive. So we're always looking at the current market data every day, every week, every month. So that's how we're being proactive. The BRICS, I might toss that one over to Paul. Paul can do that one. So I'll cover the inflation one and then hand it over to you to finish on that one. Because I have thoughts on that one, but Paul probably has other thoughts too. So the inflation is a good, healthy thing for an economy. It's been a little bit painful because if you look, our average inflation is between 3 and 4%. Inflation is a healthy, positive thing of a growing economy. Where you get deflation is where you get into depressions and major economic crises. So it's been a little bit painful because since 2008, 2009, it was relatively flat for 10 years. So then we had a jolt of inflation just in a couple of years. So, we had 5.9 and 8.7. So now going into next year, Medicare is going up 3.2%. So inflation's healthy. It's painful. If you get used to zero inflation, you kind of get complacent. But smaller steps like this is healthy and it's easier to stomach. The larger amounts are not as easy. So from there, I'll turn it over to Paul.
Yeah, that's a good question on the BRICS, particularly like, hey, are they going to create a currency that rivals the dollar? It's going to be based on gold, right? On the surface, that sounds like, oh wow, that's really intriguing, right? But then you go to supply and demand, and you go, okay, well, how are you going to get all that gold to kind of outpace the dollar? So the position we're taking is kind of a wait and see. Okay. You'll have people that'll say, oh, there's no way they pull it off. What if they do pull it off? Okay, what happens if that does happen? If you take a look at who all holds dollars, it's a lot of people, right? So that's just it's a big thing to kind of unravel, which would probably take 50 to 100 years to do, right? Don't quote me on that timeline, but my point is like it takes a long time to do. I don't know if there's enough gold to do what they want to do. I guess we'll find out if they try to pull it off. The other thing that's interesting to me, of the countries that are listed in BRICS, the only ones that I really trust their numbers is probably going to be India. Now I realize that's kind of a political statement that's Paul Zarling talking, not Klein First, just so we're clear on that. Of all that, and I realize why India's doing it, right? Because they kind of have to play their neighbors that are close with everything involved. I think going forward, like I mentioned before, we have to monitor it. But there's just so many people that hold the U.S. dollar. And to me, the thing before BRICS is what is Japan going to do with the debt that they have? And so to me, that's the one where like, if they throw a ping pong ball in a room full of mousetraps, what all kind of, sets off from there. So it's not an easy situation in the banking environment. So I think that's why I'm really encouraged with like Dave, Dan, Kevin, Ian kind of monitoring those things so they can be adjust and adapt. I know we say adaptive, but adapt very quickly. If it's not weekly, it's sooner with everything, including our ETF. So that's where we're at when it comes to BRICS specifically. And that's a great question to ask because it's like, wow, could they really, really rival the US dollar? Similar to when, a little bit of history, when, when the European Union wanted to create the euro, right? It's done okay, but there's a whole lot of things below the level, the surface, I should say, that either hinder that from happening. So I think the bigger thing, this is, again, Paul Zerling talking, is can we get our deficit spending under control? Because then that'll be a big factor of like, what's the dollar going to affect on that? Does that help? I realize that covered like 5 different big areas.
Yeah.
Maybe the big takeaway is the adaptive team's on it. Every day, all day. Well, not all day. It's 24 hours. They're doing their job, but they're monitoring that in futures to see what kind of happens there. The cool part is though, when you travel, the dollar goes a long way right now. So I would encourage you guys to go travel.
Yep.
So, but that's a good question to ask. It's one we just have to kind of monitor it and see where it goes.
Yeah.
Good question. What other questions?
Do you see the digital dollar coming anytime soon?
Do we see the digital dollar coming anytime soon? Well, this crew has got the best forward-looking questions, right? Whether it's crypto or tracking every $600 you spend or whatever the number is now. Man, that's another good one to monitor. I know they're trying it in different countries, right? By the way, I should repeat the question. Do we see a digital dollar coming soon? We've seen it in other countries. It's gone interesting, right? Because it comes back to freedom of able to spend versus what you're tracked and doing, and is it a government control thing versus an individual liberty thing, which we'll leave for pundits to talk about over here. For the U.S., I know they're on track to kind of like try to make it work. Again, it's something we'll have to just kind of monitor and adjust to. I prefer cash, but if the world kind of goes that way, I know a lot of people use credit cards, and then also have a digital currency, and we're already on a fiat thing. We're on a basket of currencies. We're not based on the gold standard either. So we'll just have to monitor that one. I'd love to give you a finite answer, but I'm not gonna, because I don't think anybody could right now. We'll just have to kind of monitor what that means. Maybe not so much for me, but what my kids have to kind of deal with, over time. So we'll just see. I don't have a straight, like, good or bad answer for you. It's something we have to kind of closely monitor and adjust to pretty quickly.
Is that something that could happen like overnight?
Is it something that could happen overnight? Similar like what India did, where they said, hey, guess what? We're replacing this denomination with another. I would like to think no. But that's why we also have a participative government where you can vote for your representatives and also, write to them. I haven't seen anything right now which says they're going to do that and flip the switch overnight. But it's also something we should be asking, our politicians on what they're going to be doing, because that would be quite the shock to the system, for that to happen. So I don't know. There's a lot of people on another, part of entertainment television where they like to kind of stir up things around that. But I would just say, just communicate with your representatives when it comes to that, because how our system is set up is to be able to vote and have communication that way. It would be quite peculiar, I would just say it that way, if all of a sudden overnight they either reduced denominations or they, went to a certain system. That'd be interesting for America. I realize other countries may be different, but for us, we'll just monitor it. And then communicate with your elected officials. Those are some deep ones, guys. Whew. What other questions do we have? I don't know, is there anything else you want to add to that?
No Mandor question? That's from my mom at noon.
Yeah, his mom asked an energy credit question. She called it a mandor, which is really just the side door going into your garage. I've never heard of it that way. I was like, that's a man door? I didn't know that was a thing. So, what other questions are there? Going once, people just want. I think the pumpkin pie is gone, by the way, guys. So, you may have to get just your favorite beverage. Okay, so then let's. Is there anything else you guys want to add to any of the questions that were asked? Okay, then let's wrap it up. First of all, a round of applause for the team of experts. And then another round of applause. I thought the food was good. I went back there, I had some turkey and some ham and some gravy. Look out. That was great. So you have your feedback forms. So please fill those out. The first part is, your information. Second part is, hey, content of the information and the delivery. Third part is going to be, hey, there's some things I need help with. Fourth part is, a way we can help you do that. So please fill it out. We have Heather. We have Dominique. Is Katie there? Heather and Dominique. We're going with Heather and Dominique. Perfect. Then, for our clients, right, we've just concluded all of our financial education, right? So you've heard 4 times about the market, 3 times from the Truistic team, 2 times on estate planning, 1 time on insurance planning, and 1 time on information security and identity theft. So that's kind of our calendar. So that concludes our 2023. So for clients in December of 23, we're going to kind of have a celebration. So if you're a client, look for an invite. We're going to see you there. We're going to have a fun time. So look for that. And then for 24, we'll release that calendar of content, and we'll get that out to you. And you'll know the dates, the times, and everything else. So really appreciate the team and everything they do for putting together all the content to kind of educate all of you. And so that's been fun to see. Then, if for those that maybe this is your first time, maybe it's your 3rd time or 10th time, and you're like, man, I really need to get things aligned, you know how to reach us. Our phone number is on the screen. Our email's on the screen. Heather's here. Just get a hold of us, set up a no-fee initial consultation, and we'll help kind of align all the different puzzle pieces so you don't have to go to like 7 different people to try to align for what you're doing. Go ahead, Justin.
Another season is over, Paul. Downtown West Bend construction.
Oh, yeah. Does our downtown Main Street look phenomenal? Yes, I think so, right? We went from Grand Rain opening to like we had then the Christmas tree lighting, right? Then we had some buck downtown that was seen as reflection in the windows. Did you guys see this? Right? Like, Kevin, I know you shot a big one out by Trenton, but like this buck was like bashing into the doors with no damage, but he was like trying to challenge something. So that was exciting. We've got the Riverwalk is done, right? The pedestrian bridges are all decorated for Christmas. It looks amazing. So come on down. If it's not for initial consultation, maybe you go see one of the fine stores, take a hike around, take the Riverwalk underneath the bridge. Don't look back at the bridge. You're going to be blasted with lights this time because it's going to shine on the dam. But it looks really cool. We went through it. When I say we, the team with like being, construction on the front of the building, construction on the back of the building, and you're really resilient. So we appreciate that. And now everything looks gorgeous, and we're just super thrilled. So yes, that season is gone. But now we're ready for 2024. We're ready to go, man. Our team's ready to go. They're excited. We're pumped. We're ready to keep serving you guys. And 23 is kind of in the books, so to speak. And if you guys want more turkey or ham, did Brian take it away? Is there any more turkey or ham out there? It's in the back. Okay. All right, just get some drinks. We'll be good. All right. Is there anything else for me? Any other questions? Otherwise, we're going to wrap up. We're going to adjourn. I want you guys all to have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Hopefully, it's a ton of fun with family and friends. If you're going to play football with people that are younger than you, make sure you stretch out. I don't want to hear about any injuries or popped Achilles or anything like that. So we really appreciate you guys, and we're going to adjourn. Have a blast, and we will see you either at the Christmas party or in 2024. All right, enjoy.